I made something just for you. It is a self-care check-in checklist, which you can find in the link in my bio or on Instagram, or you can find it in guides on the Facebook group, Homeschool Mama Support Group. It's really about time that I did this, don't you think? Okay, so here's what it is. It is a sheet that you can fold up and slip into your journal if you want, and check it for the first maybe 2-3 weeks. Apparently it's not 30 days that it takes for you to create a new habit. It's actually 63 days. 63 days, says Dr. Caroline Leaf, a neuro researcher, and 63 days is a long time. But you know, we have all winter. We have a long time to put into practice self-care strategies that really will work for us as homeschool moms. So I've got a list of a few things. Now, you know that I have a book on self-care, so I do have more than this many things on the list inside that book, but I have a few things that I want to share that I think are the most important things for you. They are the things that set a baseline to look after you while you're looking after your kids, or as I say, nurturing the nurturer. Okay, so the first thing, enact your morning routine. That can be hard when you have little kids or you haven't slept all night. I get it. In fact, I was talking to someone, a podcast guest this morning, and she said that her kids, her oldest is 10, sometimes wakes her up. Those were my experiences as well at about that age. I had my oldest child sometimes bringing me a cup of coffee in the morning to wake me up. So I know that sometimes we're in a certain season and it's more difficult to enact that morning routine. But when and if you can get into a practice or a habit of creating a morning routine that includes whatever elements actually set your day or fuel you before you get started in your homeschool day, I recommend it, because it really is like fuel. Having that little bit of quiet time, maybe to read something inspirational, maybe your goal is just to pray or meditate or go for a run, get some outdoor time before the kids are awake. Yeah, I know that sounds like a tall order, but it's profoundly helpful and sets the energy for your day. And you for sure set the energy for your homeschool day. So first and foremost, enact your morning routine. Then how about learning something that you want to learn? Of course, we're learning all sorts of interesting things, and sometimes we're relearning some things, and we're very engaged with our kids. But let's take the opportunity to learn something that's just for us in the week. Also fun. You don't have to do the same things that the kids are doing for fun. You can, of course, create moments where you're really eyeball to eyeball with your kids and enjoying whatever activity that they like to do. And you can include that in your time with them, but also creating time that's fun for you, that is outside of anything homeschool related, in whatever form that takes. And if all you've got is just 15 minutes to do that, then start there. The other thing is finding quiet space. Okay, I don't mean grocery store quiet space, because I know at a certain point of my parenting, that was like cheap therapy, going to a grocery store, which is really sad, isn't it? When you were 20 and you had to go grocery shopping, or whatever age it was that you were grocery shopping without kids, and you were single and you thought these errands are so tedious. Remember those days? Do you remember those days? I actually remember those days, and I thought, this is so much work. Anyway, if the grocery store is your cheap therapy, I don't mean that kind of quiet. I mean finding quiet in a different way. If you can find someone to trade kids with, or maybe even having a child, if they're especially young, on a grandparent Zoom chat, where maybe grandma and grandpa are reading a book to your kids, or you're able to exchange kids with a neighbor, or obviously you can also ask your partner, trust your partner, for just an hour for you to go anywhere on your own. If that means you have no money or no ability to go in a coffee shop, just sit outside in your car, quietly listening to music or journaling in a journal or whatever it is that feeds you. Go to a park, walk around a park, go to an art gallery, literally anything. The thing that you used to do before you had kids, maybe that thing. Go do that just for an hour a week by yourself. It's amazing how when you come back to your family, you appreciate them a whole bunch more. Okay, get active every day. I won't suggest any particular way to do that. Some of us love doing fit or HIIT workouts, yoga, literally whatever activity it is, just get your body moving, preferably outside. The combination is really useful for your brain. Of course, you want to feed your brain to fuel that actually benefits you. I'm going to have a 5-day health and nutrition challenge in the next couple of weeks, which I'm really excited about. It's not your typical nutrition challenge. It certainly is not me feeding you stuff you already have been told over and over about what's healthy and what's not healthy, but a nutrition challenge that fits the context of a homeschool mom, because it's a little different as a homeschool mom. How about how about including a mindful moment? I actually think this is the most important aspect of self-care. Yesterday I was on a panel with Homeschool CEO about healthcare and mental self-care. And one of the biggest things that I had to offer that I think is also the most challenging self-care strategy, it is actually taking captive your thoughts. Choosing to think your thoughts, which if you've ever tried doing, it's actually very difficult to do. So instinctively we have feelings, and feelings are good signs for being a human being and actually, experiencing the life that we were meant to live. All human beings feel feelings. It's a thing. Except as homeschool moms, we don't want to feel certain feelings. So from my book, Homeschool Mama Self-Care, coincidentally, I wrote in the chapter about caring for mama's emotions, homeschool mamas are humans. Yes, we are. We don't associate all those feelings with the homeschool experience. However, we are humans homeschooling, and it is human to be familiar with all the feelings. We homeschool mamas accept satisfaction, contentment, glee, and delight as part of the homeschool experience. We expect those feelings. But what about all the other feelings? The uncomfortable ones. The ones like you feel angry with your child, or you feel uncertain that you want to be doing this homeschool thing. Maybe you feel sad because of so many possibilities this year, or frustrated or disappointed. Those kinds of feelings, they're not really comfortable. They're not the ones that we really enjoy feeling, except that we're humans and we feel feelings. So my suggestion is to create a mindful moment in the day. Maybe put it in your phone, an alarm. If you don't have a phone like me, put it in your iPod or get an old-fashioned alarm clock and set that mindful moment or that alarm to maybe 11 in the morning, if that's a common time where you're very busy. Whatever time of the day where you're usually quite busy, set it for them and check in with yourself. You're gonna just stop for a moment, take a deep breath, inhale for 4 beats, hold it for 4 beats, and then exhale it for 4 beats. If you could do that 10 times, that's a lot. But if you could do that for 10 times, it actually would slow down all of your systems. It would slow everything physiologically down so that you would be able to be more present and in the moment. But even if you do it twice, and then you ask yourself, how do I feel? How do I feel right now? And then ask yourself, why am I feeling that feeling? When did it start? What was the context? What was the story? Who were the people involved? Why am I feeling what I'm feeling? What is the story that I'm creating around that feeling? When you spend time doing that, becoming more self-aware, you learn a lot about yourself. And yes, sometimes it's embarrassing to acknowledge that I'm feeling something that I don't want to share with anybody because it sounds so silly, or it might sound pitiable, or it might sound, it doesn't matter what it sounds like, you're only speaking to you. And also, we all have those feelings in some form. We all have feelings that we wouldn't want to share here. We all have those feelings. But then you get familiar with what are your feelings, what's the story that you're creating around those feelings, and then you get to challenge your thoughts. Is what I'm thinking really true? And usually the answer is no, or it could be, well, yeah, of course it's true, or why would I be thinking it? But the outcome of that thought, what is it? That you feel more anxious? That you feel angry at someone? Justifiably angry? That you feel resentful? that you live in a state of disappointment or a feeling like you can't do what you want to do, really? Sometimes we get to decide then, what is our thought? And do we get to decide why, or we get to decide how we think about something? We get to reframe our thought. Because when we reframe it, and we do this on repeat, then we actually really change the trajectory of how we're living our lives and how we're experiencing life and how we're showing up in our homeschools or showing up in our relationships. So I think creating those mindful moments in our day, just once a day on repeat, is probably the biggest self-care strategy that we can enact in our homeschool. But I also talk about reviewing your homeschool vision every once in a while. It does not have to be every day, but every once in a while, maybe every month, maybe every few months, checking to see, why are we doing this homeschool thing? What's the reason that you're doing this homeschool thing? Then, of course, meditating and praying, because stopping and just allowing ourselves to just be and practicing presence is kind of the value in life. And that is actually why we're living, is so we can experience life. So sometimes we need to slow things down and actually really be present. Reviewing your daily affirmations. Every morning you can read affirmations to yourself. You're essentially feeding your thoughts. You're telling yourself what you want to think. You can download the PDF Homeschool Mama Daily Affirmations in the link in my bio or on Facebook. On Facebook, you can find it in the guides of the Homeschool Mama support group. The Homeschool Mama Daily Affirmations that I speak to myself might not be what you want to speak, but whatever you choose, you can actually read through the affirmations that I've written, and you can cross things out, entire paragraphs, or just a line, or maybe it's a word that doesn't suit you. Whatever you choose to think, you can write that out and use what I have for myself as a guide for you. Okay, so then you can also call, text, or write someone every day. Connecting in community and relationship, that's part of why you're here, is to build a bigger community or to be part of something bigger. And so it's really easy to be in our own home and be in our own world, our own sphere, and not necessarily connect with others. But we all have that longing, desire to connect and be with people. So be you, be authentically, vulnerably you, and connect in with somebody every day. Like I said, process your uncomfortable emotions. Make it a practice of mindfully, including a mindful moment in your day, every day, and then getting comfortable with the uncomfortable emotions, accepting that they're there and that you actually need to be with them. Because surprise to me was that when you sit with them and when you get comfortable being with them, they get smaller, they get less intense. Sometimes we need to see a therapist. Sometimes we need to talk with someone else to get perspective about what our thoughts really mean or how we can frame them. So consider doing that if you feel like you really are having a hard time cracking this nut. And of course, the last thing is, just because you're a homeschool mom doesn't mean you're with your kids. It might mean you're keeping them occupied. It might mean that you've got lots of activities for them. And it doesn't even mean that you're necessarily in the same room. So get some eyeball to eyeball time with them every single day. It'll serve your heart as well. So if you're looking for this checklist, it is the self-care check-in, nurturing the nurturer. You can find that in the link in my bio. And I want to remind you that tomorrow I'm going to be doing an intensive seminar. It'll be an hour and a half of us digging deep into what we're really thinking and how we're really engaging our big emotions. And I honestly don't think that there is a more necessary and important discussion in our homeschool world. And it is by far the most challenging one in my experience, because the academics can be mostly fun until you're having to multiply fractions. And the socialization concept, not an issue. But I'll talk more about the S question in the book club next Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time as we go through the book, Rachel Gathercole's book, The Well-Adjusted Child. If you have any questions or uncertainties about the socialization question, you probably won't after that book club next Thursday. And tomorrow If you want to sign up for the Big Emotions Intensive, you can do that by also joining the link in my bio or just message me directly. I hope you and your kids have a great rest of the week, but remember what Van Gogh says, which I think applies to us. Great things are done by a series of small things brought together. So keep on, keeping on. See you soon.